Okay, I want you to try something with me for a second. Close your eyes.
Unless you're driving.
Right, yes. Good point. Don't close your eyes if you're driving or, I don't know, operating heavy machinery.
Please don't.
But if you're somewhere safe on the couch, walking the dog, just, go with me here mentally. Picture yourself in a car.
Okay.
It's a nice car. Maybe it's that vintage convertible you've always dreamed of, or maybe it's just a reliable paid-off sedan. It doesn't matter. The point is, it's your car.
My car. Okay, I'm with you.
Your name is on the title. You pay the insurance premium every single month. You just stop at the gas station and you fill the tank with your own credit card. It is, by every legal and financial measure, yours.
I like this feeling. I have ownership, control.
Exactly. But here's the thing. You aren't driving.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, you're not even in the passenger seat calling out directions. You're in the back, squeezed into the middle seat, the hump seat.
The worst seat.
The absolute worst seat. And someone else is at the wheel. Maybe it's your boss, maybe it's your partner, maybe it's your mother.
Or maybe it's just this vague idea of society in general.
Right. And they're blasting the radio on a station playing, I don't know, experimental jazz fusion, which you absolutely hate.
Mm-hmm.
The AC is on full blast and you're freezing. They're deciding where you're going for lunch, and it's probably that sushi place that gave you food poisoning last time.
No, not the sushi place.
And you're just sitting there, nodding, smiling, trying to be a good passenger in the vehicle that you legally own.
Oof. Okay, that metaphor actually hit me a lot harder than I expected.
It's claustrophobic, isn't it?
It's incredibly frustrating. And I think a lot of people just felt a shock of recognition hearing that.
Well, I can't take the credit for it. We're diving into a whole stack of resources today, and the heart of it is this really powerful discussion from a Reddit community, and one user used that exact imagery. They said, I feel like I'm in the backseat of my own life.
Wow, what a heavy realization to have. To suddenly look around and realize you're funding the entire road trip, but you're not enjoying any of the scenery.
It gets even heavier. They went on to say that if their life were a movie, they wouldn't even be the main character.
Not the hero.
Not the hero. They're the sidekick. They're the comic relief. Or maybe the supportive best friend who only exists to make sure the real hero, which is everyone else, has a good day and succeeds on their quest.
The sidekick syndrome. We talk about main character energy all the time on social media, but it's usually like a joke or a meme.
Right.
This is the dark inverse of that. And it perfectly captures what we're digging into today.
Yeah.
The whole concept of people pleasing.
And I want to pause right there on that phrase, because I think when people hear people pleasing, they kind of roll their eyes a little bit.
Oh, for sure.
They think, oh, so you're too nice. That's your big problem. You're just too kind and generous. It sounds like a non-problem.
Right. It sounds like the kind of weakness you're supposed to give in a job interview. Oh, my biggest weakness is that I just care too much and work too hard. It sounds like a humble brag.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But what we found in the research for this deep dive, and we've got everything from psychological breakdowns by Dr. Julie Schaefer to some really intense trauma research from Very Well Mind, is that we are not talking about kindness.
Not at all.
We are not talking about generosity. We're talking about a compulsive, often fear-based behavioral pattern that absolutely hollows you out from the inside.
That's the distinction. It's the difference between, say, holding a door open for someone because you want to be helpful and holding a door open for someone because you're terrified of what they'll think of you if you don't.
One is a choice.
And the other is a compulsion. And that is the line we're going to be walking today.
That's the distinction we're really going to hammer home. We're going to go from those surface level symptoms, which, by the way, Dr. Schaefer lists out, and some of them are really surprising, all the way down to the neuroscience of it. We're going to talk about something called fawning.
Yeah, that part of the research really just stopped me in my tracks. We all know fight or flight. Most of us have heard of freeze. But fawn. Fawn is the fourth fear response, and it reframes being nice, not as a personality trait, but as a legitimate survival mechanism.
It completely changed how I see my own behavior, especially in work meetings, if I'm being honest.
Mm-hmm.
And because we never want to just leave you staring at the problem, feeling hopeless, we have a really robust toolkit at the end, drawn from some very smart people who have actually broken this cycle. We're going to talk about something called the breakfast method.
Which sounds kind of ridiculous.
It sounds so simple, but it actually works. It's about rewiring your brain in the smallest possible way.
It really does. It's one of those things that sounds too simple to be effective, but that's its genius.
So the mission for this deep dive is, well, it's simple, but it's incredibly difficult. We need to figure out how to climb out of that back seat, kick the other drivers out, politely or not, your choice, and actually grab the steering wheel of our own lives.
It's about moving from sidekick to main character.
Exactly.
But before we can even think about grabbing the wheel, we have to figure out if we're actually in the back seat to begin with.
Ah, right. The diagnosis.
Because one of the trickiest things about this whole pattern, and Dr. Schaefer points this out right at the top of her work, is that most people pleasers don't actually believe they are people pleasers.
Yeah, she mentioned that she has clients who come in for things like anxiety or burnout. And when she gently suggests that people pleasing might be at the root, they get defensive.
Totally.
They say things like, I'm not a doormat. I stood up to the cable guy last week. I told him his arrival window of 12 to 4 was completely unacceptable.
Right. The cable guy is the one universally safe target for our assertiveness.
He's the final boss of low stakes conflict.
He really is. But this is what Dr. Schaefer calls the misconception of assertiveness. We tend to think in these really black and white terms, that unless you are totally submissive 100% of the time, unless you're basically a servant to every single person you meet, then you can't be a pleaser.
But her argument is that it's much more nuanced. It's not an action, it's an undercurrent. It's a constant low-level hum of anxiety beneath everything you do.
It's not about never saying no. It's about the psychological cost of saying no. It's about why you say yes.
Okay, so let's run through the specific signs that she identified. I was reading this list and I found myself checking off way more boxes than I'm comfortable admitting publicly.
I think we all will.
The first one is the big one. It's the engine that drives the whole car. Validation seeking.
This is the fuel. This is the core of it all.
But what does that actually look like in day-to-day life? Because nobody walks around saying, excuse me, could you please validate my existence? That sounds pathetic.
No, of course not. It's so much subtler. It's, okay, let's use a work example. Imagine you send an email. It's just a standard update on a project, nothing major. You hit send.
Okay.
Now, do you just move on to the next task on your to-do list? Or do you find yourself checking your inbox every 30 seconds to see if anyone has replied, great update, or thanks for this?
And if they don't reply within 10 minutes?
You start spiraling.
Oh, I know that spiral. Did I say something wrong? Was the tone too aggressive? Maybe it was too passive. Did I use too many exclamation points? Not enough exclamation points? It's exhausting.
That is validation seeking.
Yeah.
If your fundamental sense of, I am okay and I did a good job, relies entirely on someone else smiling at you or giving you a thumbs up emoji,
Yeah.
you're outsourcing your self-worth.
You're handing the emotional remote control for your day to everyone you meet and just saying, here, you decide how I get to feel for the next few hours.
That is a dangerous, dangerous way to live because you have absolutely no control over them. You're completely at their mercy.
Okay, that's a heavy start. Sign number 2 is the classic one, the inability to say no. And Dr. Schaefer is specific here. She says, even when it causes personal inconvenience.
And I think inconvenience is a very gentle, very polite word for what actually happens.
It's an understatement.
A massive understatement.
Right.
We're not talking about, oh, I'll miss the first 5 minutes of my favorite show. We are talking about genuine self-sabotage.
The ultimate test of this, for me, is always the friend who asks for help moving.
The crucible of friendship and boundaries.
It truly is. So let's say you have the flu, you're achy, you have a fever. You also have a huge deadline at work on Monday that you haven't even started. You are physically and mentally tapped out.
You are running on empty.
And your friend calls and says, hey, can you help me move this giant, ridiculously heavy couch on Saturday? And before your brain can even access the files labeled sick and deadline, your mouth just forms the word, sure, what time?
It's a reflex. That's the key here. For a chronic people pleaser, yes is not a decision. It's a reflex action.
Like blinking.
Exactly. You are actively overriding your own reality, your sickness, your stress, to accommodate someone else's request. Your body is screaming no, but your mouth has been trained to say yes to keep the peace.
And that leads directly into her sign number 3, which is overcommitting.
The yes backlog.
Yes. You look at your calendar for the next month and it's just a disaster zone. It's a minefield of obligations you don't actually care about.
Baby showers for people you barely know. Volunteering for committees at work that you hate. Agreeing to help with extra projects that won't get you a raise or a promotion, but they just need to get done, and you're the one who will do them.
You become the go-to person, the reliable one.
And, initially, that feels kind of good, right? It feeds that need for validation we just talked about.
Yeah.
Oh, they need me. They see me as dependable.
It's a little ego boost.
It is, for a minute.
Yeah.
But then you look up and you realize you are completely drowning in other people's priorities.
Which brings us to sign number 4, self-neglect. And I think the wording here is important. Dr. Schaefer specifically talks about prioritizing others' wants over your own authentic needs.
Right. And we should probably break down the difference between a want and an authentic need.
Yeah, like what's the difference between an authentic need and just, I don't know, wanting a fancy coffee?
An authentic need is restorative. It's fundamental to your well-being. It's things like rest when you're tired, solitude when you're overstimulated, proper nutrition when you're hungry, boundaries when you feel violated.
Okay.
A hardcore people pleaser will literally ignore their body's most basic physical signals. They'll ignore hunger, exhaustion, even the need to go to the bathroom.
I've done that.
We all have. You do it just to keep a conversation going so the other person doesn't feel awkward or to finish one last task for someone else. You start treating yourself like a machine that doesn't require any maintenance.
I think a lot of parents listening probably just felt a huge pang of recognition there. It's the I'll just eat the crusts off the kids' plates mentality.
The I'll drink my coffee cold, it's fine syndrome.
I don't need a fresh meal, I'm fine. It's this sort of martyrdom light.
It is. And the tragedy of it is that you think you're being noble or selfless, but you're actually just depleting the primary asset. You're running the engine without any oil. And eventually, inevitably, that engine is going to seize.
And that brings us to the really big one, the one that feels like the root of it all. Sign number 5, conflict avoidance at all costs.
This is the core fear. This is the tiger from the fawning response we'll get to later. The foundational belief that disagreement equals danger.
I had a really embarrassing realization about this recently. I realized that I will literally change my opinion on a movie mid-conversation if the person I'm talking to hates it.
Oh, that's a
I'll
classic.
have just seen a movie, I'll have loved it, I'm ready to rave about the cinematography and the performances, and they'll look at me and go, ugh, that was absolute trash, and I will immediately pivot and say, yeah, the pacing in the second act was really weird, wasn't it?
You become a chameleon?
Why do I do that? It's just a movie. Who cares if we disagree?
Because in the people pleaser's brain, different means distant. Disagreement feels like a threat to the connection. If we don't like the same movie, maybe you won't like me.
Wow.
So you merge.
Mhm.
You mirror their opinion to maintain what feels like a safe bond. But the cost of that is that you completely disappear. You become a hollow reflection of whoever you happen to be standing next to.
You disappear. That's the hollow man feeling that the Reddit user was talking about. And Dr. Schaefer lists the consequences of all this: burnout, weak boundaries, and the big one, resentment.
Resentment is the biggest tell, by the way. If you are listening to this and you're wondering, am I a people pleaser or am I just a nice person?
Yeah.
Look for the resentment.
Can you break that down? What does that feel like internally?
Okay, so if you do something out of genuine generosity, you feel warm, you feel good about it.
Right.
If you help your friend move that couch because you love them and you truly want to help them settle into their new place, you're all eating pizza on the floor afterwards, you're laughing, your back hurts, but your heart is full.
All right. It feels good.
But if you're people pleasing, you're lifting that couch and silently in your head, you are screaming at them.
The internal monologue is just vicious.
It's absolutely vicious. I cannot believe they asked me to do this. They are so selfish. Don't they know I'm sick? I have that deadline. Why am I even here? You were just seething with this silent rage.
It's that victim fury.
It is. It's your psyche's way of screaming, I did not consent to this. My boundaries have been violated. But the person who violated them was you. You're the one who said yes.
Damn, that is a really hard pill to swallow. The idea that we are both the jailer and the prisoner in this scenario?
It's tough.
Yeah.
But before we get too down on ourselves for this, I want to bring in a really interesting counterpoint from that Reddit thread.
Oh, right. The business paradox.
Yeah, because there was this user, Zolomon, who jumped into the discussion and basically said, hey, hold on a second. Being a people pleaser isn't all bad. In fact, in the business world, it could be a commodity.
I'm so glad we're bringing this up because it's absolutely true. If you look at the structure of corporate America, who gets the Employee of the Month plaque on the wall?
It's almost never the person with rock-solid boundaries who logs off at 5:00 p.m. sharp and turns off their phone.
No. It's the person who says yes to the emergency project at 6:00 p.m. on a Friday, the one who volunteers for the extra work.
Society actively rewards this behavior. We don't call it people pleasing. We call it being a team player or having a great work ethic or being high performance. You get the reputation of being the one who gets it done no matter what.
So the whole system is reinforcing the pattern.
Absolutely. Solomon points out that people pleasers are hyper attentive. They anticipate needs before they're even spoken. They can read the subtle shifts in a room better than anyone else because their threat detection system is always on high alert.
So if your boss sighs in a meeting.
Yeah, a people pleaser knows exactly why they sighed and already has the relevant file pulled up before the boss even asks for it.
Hmm.
In a support role, that is an absolute superpower.
So we get the praise, we get the raise, we get the positive feedback. Oh, Sarah's so reliable, Mike is such a grinder. The world is basically patting us on the head and telling us, keep doing this. This is valuable.
But here's the catch, and Solomon nailed this part in their comment. They said, and I'm paraphrasing, the important thing is to choose to please yourself as often as you can too, because no one else is going to look out for your happiness but you.
That's the kicker, isn't it? Your boss loves that you have no boundaries. Your company benefits from your lack of boundaries, but your boss is not going to tuck you in at night. They're not going to make sure you're getting enough sleep or that you feel fulfilled in your life.
Not at all.
Yeah.
You are essentially trading your long-term well-being for short-term professional praise. And it works for a few years. Maybe you rise through the ranks, but eventually that tank runs dry. You hit burnout.
And when you burn out and you're no longer useful,
That same system that praised you for your self-sacrifice will replace you in a heartbeat because you're no longer a productive asset.
it's a trap. It's a golden cage. We walk into it because it looks shiny and rewarding, but then the door locks behind us and we realize we can't get out.
It is. And understanding that it's a systems issue, not just a personal failing, is a huge first step.
Mm-hmm.
But the question that always nags at me is, why is it so damn hard to stop?
Right.
We know we should say no. We can feel the burnout coming. We know we're tired. But the word no just gets stuck in our throat. It feels physically impossible to say it. Why?
This is where we have to pivot.
Hmm?
We have to go from the habits conversation to the biology conversation. We need to look at the wiring of the nervous system.
And this brings us to that very well mind source and the concept of fawning.
This feels like the missing link for so many people. It was for me.
Me too.
So let's unpack this carefully. Most of us, we've heard of fight or flight. It's part of our cultural vocabulary.
Maybe you've even heard of freeze, the deer in the headlights response.
Right. But fawn was a totally new one for me.
Okay, so let's do a quick, biology 101.
Yeah.
Imagine you're an early human, a caveman. You're walking through the tall grass of the savannah. Suddenly, a saber-toothed tiger leaps out from behind a rock. Your amygdala, the most primitive reptilian part of your brain, completely hijacks your system. It has milliseconds to make a choice to keep you alive.
Option A, fight.
Grab a big rock, scream your head off, try to scare the tiger or kill it. Your adrenaline spikes, your muscles tense, blood rushes to your limbs.
Option B, flight.
Turn and run faster than you've ever run in your life. Hope you can outrun the tiger, or at least outrun the other guy who is walking with you.
That's always the key.
Always. Option C, freeze.
You just stop. Play dead.
Exactly. You become completely still. Hope the tiger's vision is based on movement and it just doesn't see you or thinks you're already dead and not worth the effort. You basically shut down.
But what if none of those are viable options? What if the tiger is way too big to fight, it's way too fast to outrun, and it is staring directly at you, so freezing is pointless?
Then you have the fourth option. Option D, fawn.
Try to make friends with the saber-toothed tiger.
Essentially, yes. In a human context, fawning is defined as coping with a perceived danger by appeasing the threat to prevent further harm.
Okay, say that again. Appeasing the threat.
It is an immediate, unconscious, automatic shift into submission and helpfulness. You start sending signals that say, I am not a threat to you. I am harmless. In fact, I am helpful. I can be useful to you. Please don't hurt me.
This is primal stuff. This isn't just, social awkwardness or not wanting to make waves.
This is a deep survival mechanism.
Mm.
The Very Well Mind Source uses a very severe but clear example. Think of a violent crime scenario, like an assault or an abduction. If someone is held up at gunpoint and the victim becomes extremely compliant, very helpful, even trying to chat with the attacker and build rapport, that is a fawning response.
And I think people in those situations, or even just in really bad relationships, they look back on their own behavior and they judge themselves so harshly.
Oh, the shame is immense.
They think, why didn't I fight back? Why was I so nice to that person who was hurting me? What's wrong with me?
And that shame is so toxic and so misplaced. The reality is this. Your lizard brain did a lightning-fast risk assessment. It calculated that fighting back or running meant almost certain death, but being nice and compliant gave you maybe a 10% higher chance of survival.
And it took that chance.
It took the only chance it saw. Compliance in that kind of situation is not consent. It is not weakness. It is a biological safety strategy to keep you breathing for one more minute.
That is such a critical distinction because I think we carry that shame for years. But okay, that's an extreme example. This fawning mechanism, it gets installed in us in much more subtle, everyday ways, right? Usually it starts in childhood.
Almost always. Let's go back to that Reddit thread.
Right.
There was a user, their account name was deleted, but their story was just so poignant and clear. They linked their people pleasing behavior directly to their parenting environment.
Right.
They said their parents weren't necessarily abusive in the classic movie of the week sense of, constant hitting,
Mm,
but they were young, they were stressed, they had money problems, and they were prone to just blowing up.
yeah. And for a child, that blowing up is the threat. That's the saber-toothed tiger.
Exactly. So put yourself in the shoes of a 5-year-old.
Uh,
You are small, you are completely dependent. Your parents are these giant godlike figures who provide your food, your shelter, your safety. If one of those giants is angry, that feels like a life-threatening situation to a child's nervous system.
you can't fight them. You're too small.
You can't run away.
Eh?
Where would you go?
So you fawn.
You become the good child. You learn to be a tiny meteorologist, constantly reading the atmospheric pressure in the room. You can hear the garage door open. And,
Yeah.
just by the way the car engine turned off, whether dad had a good day or a bad day at work,
You start trying to manage their emotions for them.
you clean your room before you're asked. You become invisible when you sense tension, and you become extra helpful and charming when you think it might diffuse a situation. You are constantly trying to manage the giant's emotional state to ensure your own physical and emotional safety.
That phrase, manage the giant's emotions, that just sticks with me. You become this little emotional air traffic controller, constantly scanning the radar for incoming storms so you can try to divert them before they hit.
And you carry that skill, that hypervigilance,
Yeah.
right into adulthood. Except now, your boss becomes the giant. Your spouse becomes the giant. Even the barista at the coffee shop can become a mini giant you have to appease. You're still that 5-year-old scanning for threats, trying to be good so nobody blows up at you.
And the Very Well Mind source connects this to the cycle of abuse in relationships, too.
Yes, which is so important. In many abusive dynamics, it's not bad all the time. There's often what's called the honeymoon phase, where the abuser is incredibly charming, loving, and kind.
Which makes it so confusing for the person on the receiving end.
Terribly confusing. The victim learns to believe, or hopes to believe, that if they just behave in the right way, if they're just perfect enough, quiet enough, accommodating enough, they can keep the abuser in that good honeymoon phase permanently. They start to think, I can control their anger by being perfect.
Which is a tragic lie, of course. You can't control another person's behavior. But that little sliver of hope is what keeps you stuck, trying, and fawning.
And this is how a trauma bond forms. The abuser might control the finances, or use gaslighting to make the victim doubt their own perception of reality. The victim ends up feeling this intense, confusing attachment to the abuser, even defending them to outsiders, because that person is the source of both the terror and the occasional safety. Fawning becomes the bridge you try to build between those two extremes.
There's another layer to this from the research that really struck me. It's not just about the scary or unpredictable parents, it's also about how the outside world accidentally reinforces the behavior.
The helpful child trap.
Yes. The example from Very Well Mind about schools.
Oh, this is so common. Think about the child in a classroom who is chronically fawning. They're quiet, they're compliant, they never cause trouble. They're always the first one to volunteer to help the teacher clean the erasers or hand out papers.
What do the adults say about that child?
Oh, she is such a delight to have in class. He is so helpful and considerate. What a good, mature kid.
They get praise for it.
Constant praise. Teachers and other adults label the behavior as good character. They literally write it on the report card, a pleasure to have in class. But in reality, what they might be doing is reinforcing a child's fear response.
Wow.
The child learns a dangerous equation. I am only valuable when I am serving others. I am only good when I have no need of my own that might inconvenience an adult.
So you have the fear at home driving the behavior, and then you have the praise at school cementing it as your identity. No wonder it feels like it's woven into our DNA.
It becomes your fundamental operating system. You stop asking the question, what do I want? And you only ask the question, what do they want me to be? And you do that so often for so many years that you forget the first question even exists. You become a complete stranger to your own desires.
Okay, that is the heavy part of this, and I think it's really important to just sit with that for a second. If you're listening to this right now and having a moment of realization thinking, whoa, this is me, just take a breath.
Mm-hmm.
It makes sense why you are this way. It wasn't a character flaw, it was a clever and adaptive strategy you were trying to survive.
Absolutely. The first step in changing this has to be compassion for that younger version of yourself who developed this coping mechanism. You cannot hate yourself into change. You developed this shield for a very good reason.
But now, as an adult, that shield has gotten too heavy. It's starting to crush you. So we need to figure out how to gently, respectfully put it down.
And that brings us to the strategy toolkit.
The how to section. We've identified the problem, we've dug into the deep psychological roots. Now, how do we actually fix it? And I love this section because the sources gave us some really weird, really specific, really tactical advice.
It's not just fluffy advice like learn to love yourself.
Yeah.
It's do this one specific thing at 8 a.m. tomorrow morning.
Exactly. So, strategy number 1 comes from Dr. Schaefer. She says, to start with identifying your triggers and using I statements.
This is the data collection phase. Before you can change anything, you need to become a scientist of your own life. You have to observe the pattern.
So you start paying attention. Where does the fawning happen most often?
Is it when your boss walks into your office? Is it when you get a phone call from your mother? Is it at big social gatherings where you feel insecure? You can't change a pattern if you don't even see it happening.
Okay, so you spot the trigger. You're in a meeting. Your boss asks for a volunteer for a terrible project. You feel that old yes reflex rising up. Then what?
Then you practice setting the smallest possible boundary using an I statement. So in a group setting, instead of saying, well, is it okay if we maybe go to the Italian place for lunch? If that works for everyone else, no worries if not.
The classic people pleaser ramble.
Yes. You just say, I would like to get Italian food today.
That feels so blunt.
It feels terrifyingly blunt to a pleaser. But that little word, I, is revolutionary.
Oh, yeah.
It claims space. It plants a tiny flag in the ground that says, I exist. I have preferences.
And Dr. Schaefer also says to start small. Don't start by telling your CEO their new initiative is a terrible idea.
No. Don't start on the highest difficulty setting.
Start with something incredibly low stakes. And that leads perfectly into my absolute favorite tip from the entire Reddit thread. This comes from user clever username 531. I'm calling it the breakfast method.
I love this one. It is so deceptively simple, it's brilliant.
So the user says to ask yourself one single question every single morning when you wake up. What do I want for breakfast? But here's the catch. You have to answer it honestly.
And that means not what is the easiest thing to cook, not what will the kids also eat so I don't have to make 2 separate meals, not what is the healthiest thing I should be eating.
No, shoulds allowed.
The question is purely, what do you, in your heart of hearts, actually crave right now?
It sounds so trivial, but I actually tried this for a week. And on the first day, I realized I didn't know the answer. I was just standing there looking at the fridge, and my brain was going, well, the yogurt expires on Friday, so I should probably want the yogurt.
That is the should completely taking over. This simple exercise is designed to create or recreate a neural pathway that has likely atrophied from disuse. The connection between your genuine desire and your conscious thought.
You're retraining your brain to consult you first.
Before it consults the expiration dates or anyone else's preferences.
But once you figure it out, maybe it's pancakes, maybe it's just a piece of toast, you go get it.
Yeah.
But then, click where your name 531 takes it up a notch. They suggest the cafe challenge.
This is basically low-stakes exposure therapy in a coffee shop.
Yes. So, the next time you go out to get a coffee or a bagel, your mission is to make one small, special request.
Something that requires them to deviate from their standard procedure even slightly.
Exactly. So you could ask for your bagel to be toasted twice to make it extra crispy. Or you could ask for extra cream cheese. Or ask for your chai latte, but with only half the usual amount of syrup.
And we need to explain why this is so terrifying for a people pleaser. The internal monologue that goes off is deafening.
Oh, it's a catastrophe in your head. You're thinking, oh God, I'm being so difficult. The barista definitely hates me now. I'm holding up the entire line. Everyone behind me thinks I'm a self-important Karen. I am a monster for asking for less sugar.
All of that over a latte. But the logic, as the Reddit user points out, is you are practicing taking up space. You are asking someone to do a little extra bit of labor just for you, just because you want it.
And then the crucial part is what happens next, which is nothing.
Nothing. The world does not end.
The barista doesn't care. They will make the latte with less sugar. The ceiling of the coffee shop will not collapse. The other customers are on their phones and aren't even paying attention to you.
And your brain gets a tiny but powerful piece of evidence that says, hey, I expressed a need, And I was not attacked. I was not rejected. I am safe.
Yeah.
You are actively engaging that overactive amygdala and proving its predictions wrong.
You're building a new data set for your nervous system. Okay, strategy number 3. This one is for those moments when someone puts you on the spot with a big request. Hey, can you help me move this couch on Saturday? Hey, can you lead this new committee at work? The panic sets in. You want to say yes just to make the uncomfortable moment end.
This is where you need the delay tactic. You need a preloaded, rehearsed script so that you don't have to think in that moment of high anxiety.
And the script is so simple, it is. Thanks so much for thinking of me. Let me check my schedule and I'll get back to you.
It is brilliant in its simplicity because it is not a no.
Right. A direct no can feel so confrontational, like a slap in the face.
This is just a pause. It's a verbal bookmark. You are buying yourself time to get out of that high pressure situation.
And in that time, you can go home, you can regulate your nervous system, drink a glass of water, and actually ask yourself the real question. Do I have the time, energy, and desire to move a couch on Saturday?
And usually the honest answer is no.
And then you can send a polite text or email a few hours later saying, hey, I checked my calendar and unfortunately I can't make it work. Hope the move goes great. It is so much easier to say no from a distance after that cooling off period.
It decouples the request from your immediate fear response.
Yep.
You are breaking that automatic yes reflex. Even saying, sure, let me check, is a victory because that sure isn't a final promise. It's just an acknowledgement of their request.
Okay, I love that. Strategy number 4 comes from another Reddit user, Good Doggos. And this one is about shifting from playing defense to playing offense. It's about vocal confidence and initiating.
This one addresses that sidekick feeling directly. Sidekicks wait around for the hero to make a plan and then they just go along with it.
Main characters make the plan.
Main characters make the plan. So Good Doggos suggests practicing something as simple as dropping your filler words. Try to stop saying just or sorry as a preface to everything.
So instead of saying sorry, I just think that maybe we could possibly consider trying.
You just say, I think we should try this.
Own your words.
Exactly. But the bigger piece of advice is to start initiating the plans yourself. Instead of waiting for your friends to invite you to something, you be the one who sends out the text. The example given in the thread was, hey everyone, let's go to that new rooftop bar and do karaoke on Friday night.
Which sounds like a great plan, by the way. I'd go.
Me too. But notice the fundamental shift in energy. You're not asking the group, so what do you guys want to do this weekend? You are stating, this is what I want to do. Who wants to come with me? It shifts you from the passenger seat to the driver's seat.
And the user makes a great point. You can still be flexible. It's not about becoming a dictator. If everyone replies saying they hate karaoke, you can adjust the plan. But you were the one who started the motion. You set the initial direction.
And what's surprising to most people pleasers is that people usually love this. Most people are indecisive. They're relieved when someone else takes the lead and says, here is the plan. You're not being bossy. You're actually being a leader and making things easier for everyone.
So we've got the bagel method, the delay tactic, the karaoke plan. These are all great practical hacks, but we have to be real here. For some people, ordering a toasted bagel isn't going to be enough to fix 30 years of deep-seated trauma.
No. And that's where we hit the limitations of behavioral life hacks. There was another user on Reddit, their account was also deleted, who said something that just really hit hard. They said, the issue runs deeper than I think a class or a book could go over. For me, people-pleasing is my personality.
That's a gut punch. When the trauma is that deep, when it feels like the very foundation of who you are, the fake it till you make it strategy just feels like you're putting a tiny Band-Aid on a broken leg.
It does. And this brings us to our final section, the path to healing through deep work. If your entire nervous system is wired for fawning, you need to actually rewire it. And that often requires more than just willpower.
One method that was mentioned in the thread, which is a good bridge between hacks and therapy, was the notebook method.
Yes. This is a form of cognitive restructuring you can do on your own, at home. The user described it as sitting down with a notebook and just writing out exactly what comes into your head about how you act in certain situations.
Digging for the root cause.
Right. You ask yourself the hard questions on paper. Why did I agree to that when I was exhausted? What was I actually afraid would happen if I said no?
It's like conducting your own therapy session on the page.
Yeah.
And Dr. Schaefer also mentions journaling, specifically as a way to challenge your negative core beliefs. So if you find yourself writing down, I'm afraid they will hate me if I say no, you can then look at that sentence objectively and ask, is that really true? Do I have concrete evidence for that fear?
It externalizes the fear. When it's just swirling around in your head, it feels huge and real. But when you write it down, you can critique it and see it for what it often is, a story you learned as a child that is no longer true.
But sometimes journaling isn't enough. Sometimes you need a professional guide to help you navigate that inner world.
For sure. And the Very Well Mind source lists several specific types of therapy that have been shown to be really effective for fawning and trauma. They mentioned a few acronyms that we should probably break down for people.
Yeah, the first one they mentioned was EMDR. I've heard so much about this lately. It seems to be having a moment.
It is, and for good reason.
Yeah.
It stands for eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. Sounds complex, but here's the simplest way I can explain it. Imagine your brain is a big, messy file cabinet. Traumatic memories, like that experience with the parent who blows up, are like crumpled up sticky papers that got shoved in the wrong drawer.
So every time you open that drawer to get something else, they fall out and overwhelm you.
Exactly. The memory isn't properly filed away, so it feels like it's happening right now. EMDR uses bilateral stimulation, often eye movements, to help the brain take those crumpled papers, smooth them out, process them, and file them correctly in the past events folder.
So the memory's still there, you don't forget it, but it doesn't have the same emotional charge. It doesn't hijack you anymore.
Precisely. It creates a healthy distance between you and the fear, so the past stops controlling your present day reactions.
They also mentioned TFCBT.
Right. That's trauma focused cognitive behavioral therapy. If EMDR is about reorganizing the file cabinet, TFCBT is more like rewriting the faulty code in your brain software. It helps you identify the distorted thought patterns, the cognitive distortions like, if I say no, I will be abandoned forever, and actively replace them with more realistic and balanced thoughts.
And the last one they mentioned was creative arts therapies, which I love because sometimes words just aren't enough to get to the trauma.
Especially with developmental trauma. That kind of trauma is often pre-verbal. It's stored in the body, in the nonverbal parts of the brain. So sometimes, using things like painting, movement, music, or drama can access those locked rooms in a way that just talking about it can't. It's about expressing the authentic self that you've been hiding for so long.
The ultimate goal of all of this, whether it's therapy or journaling or the bagel method, is to unlearn that old survival skill. It's about being able to look at that shield you built as a child, thank it for protecting you when you were 5, and then gently putting it down because you're 35 now and you don't need it anymore.
That's a beautiful way to put it. It's about helping your nervous system understand on a deep cellular level that you are safe now. You're an adult. You have agency. If someone gets mad at you because you can't help them move a couch, you will not die. You'll not be abandoned in the woods. You can handle their temporary discomfort.
I want to touch on one last practical thing from the Very Well source before we start to wrap up, and that's about supporting others. Because chances are, if you're listening to this, you might not be the pleaser. You might be the friend, the partner, or the child of one.
And it can be really frustrating to be on the other side of it.
It can be maddening. You just want to shake them and say, just tell me what you actually want for dinner. It's not a trick question.
Right. But the advice from Very Well Mind is really clear. Don't get defensive. If you notice your partner is fawning with you, being overly apologetic, agreeing with everything you say, don't take it personally. Don't say something like, I'm not your abusive ex, why are you acting like this? That just heaps more shame onto the pile.
Because it's not actually about you in that moment.
It's not. It's an automatic, pre-programmed response from their past. The best thing you can do is be a steady, safe, non-judgmental container for them. Reassure them. Say things like, hey, I really want to know what you think. It's safe to disagree with me here.
And then, and this is the most crucial part, when they finally gather the courage to disagree with you.
You have to reward the behavior.
Yes. If they finally say, after years of deference, you know what, I actually don't want to watch another action movie, I want to watch a romantic comedy, do not sigh. Do not roll your eyes.
This is ick fine.
You have to say, okay, great, let's watch the romantic comedy. Thanks for telling me what you want. You have to prove to their nervous system with your actions that their honesty doesn't lead to punishment or rejection. You can actually help them retrain their brain by being the exception to the rule they learned in childhood. Wow. We have covered a massive amount of ground today, from being stuck in the backseat of a car to the neuroscience of survival responses. Let's try to distill this all down into a few key takeaways for everyone.
Okay. I think takeaway number 1 is to understand that people-pleasing is very often a safety mechanism known as fawning. It is not a flaw in your character. It's more like a scar from your history.
Second, The signs are subtle. It's not just being a doormat. It's that constant validation seeking. It's overcommitting. It's avoiding conflict at all costs. It's a state of constant low grade depletion.
Third, recovery is a two-track process. You need the small, tactical hacks like ordering the toasted bagel, using the delay tactic to build confidence and gather new data. But for many, you also need the deep work, understanding the root of the trauma, challenging core beliefs, and possibly getting professional help to heal the nervous system.
And finally, the so what. Why does any of this actually matter? Dr. Schaefer put it so perfectly in her work. She said that prioritizing your own self worth is what allows you to show up fully and authentically for others.
That's the great paradox, isn't it? We think we are serving other people by pleasing them all the time, but we're not. We're giving them a fake, curated version of ourselves. We're giving them a resentful, exhausted, hollow shell.
When you fill your own cup first, when you set boundaries, you are giving the people you love the greatest gift of all, a whole, happy, authentic person to be in a relationship with.
I love that. And it reminds me of that Reddit comment from the original discussion. Someone said, "In life, some people are chiefs and some people are Indians." And the original poster replied, "I think I'll be a chief."
You have a choice. It feels terrifying, but you can choose to be the chief of your own life.
It's a choice you have to make every single day with every breakfast order and every email you send.
I want to leave you with one final thought, a bit of a provocation to chew on this week. We often think of boundaries as these big, scary walls that we build to keep people out. We think saying no is inherently selfish. But I want you to consider this idea instead. Authenticity is a service.
Oh, I really like that.
Think about it. If you never ever say no, then your yes has absolutely no value. It's just noise. It's your default setting. It's automatic.
It doesn't mean anything.
It means nothing. But the moment you start saying no to the things you don't want to do, you give incredible weight and meaning and power to your yes. By setting boundaries, you're not pushing people away. You are teaching them how to know and love the real you, not the mirror you've been holding up to them for all these years. So the question I'll leave you with is this. Are you ready to make your yes mean something again?
That's the question. And the answer starts with your very next interaction.
Thanks for diving deep with us today. Now go order that extra toasted bagel. You've earned it.
See you next time.